As if parents don't have enough to worry about, the ever-growing problem of bullying is one of the biggest threats on school playgrounds all across our country. Our guest today is Joseph Wojcik. He developed the Say No to Bullying Today program and founded the nonprofit organization Yubbie Foundation. Joe, thank you for joining us today.
Chuck, it's really my pleasure.
Joe, is the bullying problem at schools getting worse or better?
Well, I think it's been worse over the last 10, 15 years, mainly because of media coverage. But one of the things that we have nowadays is the internet, and cyberbullying really has skyrocketed.
But can you describe to me what exactly is cyberbullying?
Well, cyberbullying is when students use the internet to, let's say, do a variety of different things. Humiliate, harass, maybe post up pictures of someone that are edited or changed. So there's a variety of different things. The things with the internet is it's anonymous. So when they go on these websites like Facebook or Friends or things of that nature, that's when all of a sudden it really can become hideous.
Well, speaking of anonymous, is there a chance your kid is being bullied and not telling you?
Extremely good chance, and that's why it's very important that parents develop channels of communication with their children early on in life, because when they have a relationship with their child where there's an exchange and they're continuously talking and having dialogue about life itself, that's when a parent's capable of detecting subtle changes in a child's demeanor, and that could be a flag that something's happening in their life.
What type of changes are you talking about?
Well, some of the obvious ones is that, if a child comes home with torn clothes, damaged books, or bruises and cuts, and they have a very poor explanation about what happened, that's a very obvious sign. Or maybe they take a different way home from school every day, and a parent should be attuned to that. But then there are more subtle ones, and more subtle ones would being a child who starts withdrawing. Or maybe they start having poor eating habits, or possibly maybe they're not sleeping well. I have a free parent's guide to bullying on my website, www.joethebiker.com, and it gives the parents a whole list of different signs that they can look for if they suspect that something's happening in their child's life.
We're talking to Joseph Wojcik. He developed the Say No to Bullying Today program and has also founded the nonprofit organization Yubbie Foundation. We'll ask him about that in just a moment. Joe, are girls getting bullied as well?
Yes, it is boys and girls. The difference is how it takes place. Typically, boys tend to be very physical. So it's a person-to-person group picking on one individual. When it comes to girls, they tend to be a little bit more subtle about it. So they could start a rumor, let's say, about somebody, or pass a photo around that's inappropriate. So girls kind of take a little different approach to bullying.
Do you think schools, we hear about anti-bullying programs in our schools. Are schools doing enough? Can they do more?
Well, it really differs throughout the United States. Some districts, and it's from district to district, have bullying policies in place. They have procedures. They have contact people at their school that parents can communicate with. And then there's other ones that are somewhat lackadaisical. I think what's really imperative is that parents bully-proof their child, and that's a word I use all the time, because you can't really leave it up to the school. Parents have to be an advocate for the child, and they have to make sure before their child goes to school on any given day that their child is armed with the tools necessary, if they are targeted, to know what to do, what to follow, who to contact, and how to keep maybe a journal about the incidents.
Now, I think we all know what Dad told us to do if we were bullied back in our day. What do you say to a kid, Joe, that has an issue with a bully?
I think the most important thing a child has to understand is it is not about them. They are not the one with the problem. It really is the bully who has a problem. Something is happening in that other individual's life that's causing them to come to school and to target them. A child is perfect just the way they are. They have to feel good about themselves, and they have to really believe that the adults at their school, teachers, administrators, and most importantly, their parents are there to support them and help them through these events.
Well, I suppose one thing would be to do is to tell, this is what I would probably say, is to tell a teacher nearby or administrator that you are being bullied. Do kids feel like they're kind of chickening out that way, or? They
do, and that's, as I do performances throughout the United States using a very unique persona, Joe the Biker. And he's a tough, rough facade type of a guy, but his message is very strong. It really talks about to students to have the fortitude, to have the courage to stand up, to tell an adult, because they have a right to be there, they have a right to be protected, and they have a right to get an education. And you have to know that the teachers and the administrators are there to keep them safe. That said, what oftentimes happens, and students ask me this all the time in my performances, well, what happens if they say, if I tell, that it's going to get worse? And I always come back with the same message. You got to be like a broken record. If you keep on telling and keep on communicating to the adults at your school and to your parents, eventually you will win. I can't guarantee it'll be the first time, but like that broken record, if you keep on doing it, eventually you will succeed.
Our guest is Joseph Wojcik. He has developed the Say No to Bullying Today program and has founded the nonprofit organization Yubbie Foundation. And Joe, we were talking about what to do if you're bullied. What about on the other side? Are there things that parents can do that are maybe, let me see where I was going to go with this. Are parents actually helping create the bullies?
They can be, and that's a very good question that you asked, Chuck. Remember, as I tell these student audiences, one, no one's born a bully. No one. It's really an exception to the rule that a child would be born with that type of personality. That said, children are developed into bullies. And how does that happen? It typically happens in the home environment. Again, there are always exceptions to the rule. That said, children are developed into bullies. And what does that? Well, in a household, if there's a permissive aggressiveness, now think about it for a minute. You know, and I had this happen in one of the schools in Taunton, Massachusetts. A child, after one of my performances, called another child a name. And the principal at the school called me down to his office and asked me if I would speak to the student. And so I sat down and I asked him his name, and I said, well, how many brothers and sisters you have? He said, well, I have 5 brothers and sisters. And I said, well, okay, when you're at home, are you guys allowed to argue? She said, yeah. I said, are you allowed to call each other names? I said, of course, he said. I mean, it's like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, most importantly, do your parents scream at you? And he said, of course they do. Well, that's the key. So children will try to mimic an adult's behavior. Most importantly, the first adults they're ever exposed to are their parents. And so they absorb everything that they see. So if you have a house where permissive aggressiveness is allowed, where children are allowed to fight, argue, and be aggressive, and worse yet, if the parents are themselves, what are they creating? They're creating a child who's going to come into that school and act up, because they don't know any other way of dealing with conflict. That's what they've been taught. So parents are the teachers. The other thing is inappropriate discipline. And this is critical. And I know, Chuck, you're going to say this. Way back when, a good whack in a butt would be a good way to straighten a child out. But research has proven that having inappropriate discipline of hitting a child may have some long-term negative effects. Because what happens is a child now sees that if somebody's doing something I don't like, bang, whack them. Now, worse yet, if the parent is angry when they're hitting a child, the child now goes to school and says, hey, I'm not happy with you, I'm angry at you, whack. It's okay. Why? You know, my parents taught me how to do it. And that said, the key really is parents would like to say, well, do as I say and not as I do. But research proves that children will do as their parents do.
So I've got 2 young girls, they're twins, and they're kind of tall for being second graders. And I don't want my girls, I like it when my girls are assertive and confident. But sometimes I wonder if maybe they're going over the line a little bit. How do you teach a young person not to go over the line, but still be, have some self-confidence?
Chuck, another Absolutely great question. That's why I developed the Say No to Bullying Today program, is really for parents to help bully-proof their children. And that said, confidence is very important. It's actually one of the most powerful tools that a child can have if they are targeted by a bully, because it's easier for them to walk away. It's easier for them to stick up for their rights. It's easier for them to go and tell a parent. But here is the key. Parents have a role. Parents are guides. And that's why I encourage parents to have constant dialogue with their children. They have to nurture the child. They have to help, like you said, with confidence. Sometimes you think maybe they're overconfident. Well, that's where your job comes in. You have to guide them. You have to nurture them to understand that certain types of confidence is healthy. Other types of confidence or reactions to certain events can be negative. So the parents' roles are critical in developing that healthy self-confidence that a child can use when they go to school to not only perform well at everything they're doing, but at the same time, if they are targeted, they feel good enough about themselves to go and tell an adult.
Our guest is Joseph Wojcik. He developed the Say No to Bullying Today program and founded the nonprofit organization Yubbie Foundation. Joe, tell us a little bit about the Yubbie Foundation.
Well, the Yubbie Foundation is a nonprofit, 50C13, and I developed it to be able to put my performances, and it sponsors the Joe the Biker performances in school. And I encourage all your listeners to go to my site and see exactly what I do in the schools. My name, when I was bullied as a child, and that's some 50 years ago, was Yubbie. And today, I use that name as a tool. It's an acronym I use in the classroom. Back in those days, it was very mean. It hurt me a great deal. So I created the Yubbie Foundation using that name to use it as a positive tool to something that happened to me negatively when I was young. And I've been in front of over 100,000 students in the last couple of years. I'm delivering my message, trying to empower students to feel good about themselves, to really believe that they have a right to be in that school and they have a right to be protected. So this guy, Joe the Biker, tells them the truth, tells them that he was bullied as a kid, and that, he's okay even now looking different, because I do look absolutely different. It's okay to be different. You be proud of who you are. Be okay with yourself. You're perfect just like you are, and that's really the bully who has the problem.
Joe, these bullies have been there since probably the beginning of time, as far as we know, with schools. Is this a problem that can go away?
No, it can't. Unfortunately, I've fostered over 100 inner city kids, teens, at risk for 14 years. And a very important lesson I've learned. We can have all the laws, all the policies, all the procedures, all the programs in place. But one thing that we can't control who has children. In our state, you have to take a course and a test in order to get a firearms license. You have to take a course and a test to get a driver's license. But nobody has to take a course or a test in order to become a parent. So until we begin to educate parents how to nurture children properly, we will never eliminate the problem.
This is great stuff, Joe. He is Joe Wojcik, the Say No to Bullying Today program and the Yubbie Foundation. Joe, where can people find out more about you and this foundation?
Well, your listeners can actually go to my site, www.joethebiker.com, and they can download my free Parent's Guide to Bullying. I also have a good school read and a good read for 7th and 8th graders that's titled Call Me Yubbie. And I also have that Say No to Bullying Today program. I have testimonials from parents that have used this program with their children, and it goes over a period of time. They sit down, there's a dialogue, there's an exchange, and it helps build healthy self-confidence, and at the same time gives them extremely important tools around bullying.
Joe, I think it's awesome that you were able to turn your own personal story into something that's helping our kids, and I appreciate your time. Any final words before we go?
Most importantly, parents have to remember it is their responsibility. They brought the children into this world. They have to really learn to be a good parent. They have to spend time And that means maybe sitting down once a day with their children at supper, having an exchange. You know, research even proved that parents that sit down with their children for dinner time have less developmental problems than parents that don't. So please, parents, spend time with your children, tell them that you love them, create that channel of communication with them where they feel okay, no matter what they do, that they can come to you and know you love them and tell you anything.
That's great stuff. He is Joseph Wojcik. He has developed the Say No to Bullying Today program and founded the nonprofit organization Yubbie Foundation. Great job, Joe. Thanks for joining us today.
Chuck, thank you very much for having me on your show.
Great job. Great job.